You're listening to Left Up the Valley 2.0, Atheist, Skeptic, and Humanist Radio.
My lord, you should look at these numbers.
Way ahead of you, Gabriel.
My lord, the non-believers are gaining in numbers.
I know.
They have some heavy hitters on their side. Brilliant and popular scientists who have attained pop celebrity status.
I get it, Gabriel. We need to answer in kind. Have popular cheerleaders on our side.
Anyone in mind?
Oh, yeah. Get a hold of these rock stars for me.
Is that?
Yes. Amazing actor and hunk, Kevin Sorbo.
Hey, I'm so popular. I get my teenage boy to do my Twitter. Also was Hercules.
And we have this amazing thespian.
Is that Steve from Blue's Clues?
No, I'm Kirk Cameron, and my career is fireproof.
And this magical Oscar winner.
Hi, I'm Melissa Joan Hart, and I was a Blimp Award winner. Still definitely better than Cameron.
Ha! With these guys, we can't possibly lose.
Sir, I know that people love actors, even the C-list ones.
Talk about you, Sorbo.
Shut up, Kirk.
But what gives credibility to the other side is that they push science, data, mathematical proof, and space exploration, not some has-been mediocre actors.
Hey, I'm at the top of Christian cinema.
Ooh, I can feel your bicep. Can I feel your bicep? I don't masturbate to those anymore.
Hello, Teen Choice Award winner here in 20 years ago.
Trust me, Gabriel, this will work. Just like Christian rock, Christian Hollywood is gonna be big.
You better give them a prop or two. They're going to need it.
I need my trusty AR-15.
I'll take a talking black cat if you have one, who's definitely a better actor than I am.
My buddy Ray and I will astound him with bananas.
Ugh, I wonder if Bale's still hiring.
He's not.
Hi, this is Tracy.
And Jen.
And we took a left
at the valley.
I love it.
That was awesome. Wow.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from beautiful BC, Alligator, Florida, Coat Hanger, Texas, and Juicy Juice, Minnesota, this is Left of the Valley 2.0. My name is Kevin, and I wonder why eggs come in a flimsy styrofoam carton and batteries come in a package only a chainsaw can open.
Right?
That's a good point.
Because you can't break them while you're opening them.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, yeah.
As usual, there's a team that will tell you that the way to stop Canadian bacon from curling up in your pan is to take away the little bruise. She nearly killed a huge mouse with a baseball bat. Now she's no longer welcome at Disneyland. Sabrina.
Hi. Hey. Mickey ran away too fast anyway.
He tried to climb a tall tower in France, but I fell off.
Because the Eiffel, I get it. I get that one.
He was trying to daydream, but his mind kept wandering off. Benjamin.
It's the ADHD.
Absolutely. Totally understand.
And she went to a general store, but nobody would let her buy anything specifically.
I just needed one thing.
I just didn't get it.
Welcome back. And this show is brought to you by our patrons. You too can become a patron and support our effort. Go to patreon.com/LATV and become a patron and help grow the show. And today we'll be talking to author Bernard Lamborelle. He's coming back to talk about his book. That'll be in the second half of the show. But first, as usual, let's do a little chit chat. Great. Guys, I hope you had a great week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
It was just kind of boring.
I spent most of my time on the couch with vaccine whatever side effects. So
Oh, yep, that'll do it.
Yeah, those suck, but
Well, hopefully
you
this
know,
show will put a bit of light and brightness in your day, Ritzy.
we can hope.
absolutely.
You guys remember the last week we talked about the Tonga eruption, right?
Yes.
Some of the results are in.
Okay.
Satellite footage that caught the ripples in the atmosphere show that the eruption had a radius of 260 kilometers. That's 161 miles. And it threw ash up about 20 kilometers up in the air, about 12.4 miles into the atmosphere. Now, remember, this was an underwater volcano. So it's really quite amazing what it did. The eruption is actually estimated to be about 10 megatons of TNT, or about 500 times the bomb of Hiroshima. Or something a bit more recent, 9,000 times more powerful than the Beirut explosion that we had in 2020. Remember last year? Not last year, 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
In Beirut, in the port there, they had an explosion because they had I think it was, I can't remember the chemical compound. I think it's something.
Oh, yeah, that it just blew, like leveled the whole fucking area.
Or if not most of it.
Like the Nova Scotia explosion.
Well, yeah, but
people probably don't know about
no.
that one. Anyway.
So that's what we know so far about the Tonga explosion, and more info is going to come. So
I wonder how much new land is going to form, or new, not necessarily land because it was underwater, so there's a lot of lava.
Well, I mean, underwater volcanoes eventually do become islands.
Exactly.
So that's what happened in Hawaii. You know, the chain of islands. So God knows. We'll see down the road. God knows.
God knows, right?
I highly recommend looking at the video of the atmospheric disturbance. It's amazing to see.
It's pretty amazing. It is.
Yeah.
In medicine news, a small trial by Stanford University shows great promise for treating severe depression.
Wow.
Now, there is a treatment that's being used right now. It's called a treatment using transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it's shown overwhelming success. And now they've actually specialized it to the point that it's actually they had a small trial, but it's shown remission for 79% of the patients in a double-blind trial. So So this kind of treatment they had before, but this one is actually non-invasive and individualized and builds on intermittent theta burst stimulation, or ITBS. So essentially, they're basically what they're doing is they're doing magnetic bursts that are delivered to the affected regions of the brain. The original one, the ITBS, it was done every day for about 6 weeks, right? That makes a positive result. But now the new treatment they have, the bursts are shorter and they're localized to 10-minute sessions with 15-minute breaks over 5 days. Now the thing is, the study only had 29 participants, but in those 29 participants, like I said, there was a 79% remission rate after 5 days. So there are some side effects. Apparently, they include fatigue and headaches. But right now, it's very, very promising that treatment is going there. So hopefully, they'll be doing a bigger study with more people and see what that treatment will do. So for people with severe depression, this is a ray of hope.
Yeah, and they could just give them some caffeine and ibuprofen, and
right, get rid of that headache and perk you right up. I see Hertzie shaking her head though.
In other news, their family told them to just take a walk outside because that'll help.
Right.
Yeah. Just stop thinking that things are bad. Just stop thinking it.
Yeah, just stop thinking.
Oh, if only.
Stop thinking.
Right.
Jeez. And something I probably should have consulted Benjamin, because it could almost be things that make you so stop me, Ben, if this is your segment. A non-fungible token, an NFT group, has purchased a rare copy of the book Dune by Frank Herbert.
Yes, I've heard of this. This isn't my thing, but I've heard of this.
Okay, good.
Good. They bought this book. For $3.04 million.
What? Why?
But
this is not the best part.
Okay.
Yeah,
It gets so much better.
Attempt to make the book into a valuable digital NFT.
Oh my god!
Now, if you don't know what an NFT is,
let's explain that to the idiots, because like me, I'm an
but a non-fungible token is essentially usually it's used as a digital piece of art that's unique, and it's kind of traded a bit like Bitcoin.
Yeah, like memes, right? Like the original owner of a meme.
It could be a meme. It could be just about anything, really.
Okay.
And it's straight on the market as a kind of a piece of art. So
Jeez,
The
weird.
book was expected to fetch about 25,000 euros, but it went for 2.66 million euros, or
I did hear
$3.04
about
million
this,
dollars,
actually.
and now belongs to a group called Spice DAO or Spice DAO. I'm not sure which one. Now, the group seems to believe that owning the book, somehow that rare book, which is, kind of an original, gives them copyrights on Dune. So now what they plan to do is they plan to make the book public, produce an animated series, and support derivative projects from the book. So what they want to do is they want to convert the book to a JPEG, okay, burn the book, right? Which and they think they will give them copyright on Dune. So
But they don't.
The only if they burn the book, the JPEG will be in their mind the only copy of the book that exists.
It still doesn't make it theirs.
I know.
And there's still thousands of copies, I'm sure.
Do they think that one copy like cancels out all the other ones in exist? Like they all burn because they're all connected.
It's a very old copy. And these people just spent 2.66 million euros on this.
Wow.
Goodness.
Wow.
How old are they? Are they 12?
Right, like I can imagine them in their office, like high-fiving each other, and they're just having a good old time.
I mean, the fact that their group is called Spice DAO or Spice DAO, kind of, they're all fans of Dune, right?
Why is that from Dune?
Yeah, the whole.
Yeah, because that's their spice trade.
Sure.
And of course, the current copyrights to the book belong to the Herbert Limited Partnership Group. So, which is of course with the author. Should somebody tell them? Somebody should.
I'm sure they have heard about this.
I
bet they are salivating.
Right.
Okay,
now.
so they're super excited, right? That they bought this book until they talk to their copyright lawyer. Then the excitement level goes down significantly.
Yeah, like, wait a second. So we can't decide how the second movie's gonna go? What? No. We can't. That's crazy because they probably think they're gonna get, first of all, get money from the movie, because they own the rights to the fucking story and everything. But then they probably think they get creative control over like how they do the second movie.
That's exactly it. But the funniest part is they want to digitalize the book, which is fine. But then they want to burn the copy they have,
they think
which was
that'll
just
do
you just wasted 2.66 million euros if you just did that, buddy.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, really, they wasted the money anyway because these things are nothing. It's just us saying that something is worth something, and that's it. I mean, to be fair, it's the way all valuable things work, but it's still weird.
Yeah. Benjamin, though, I will question whether or not they will ever get a copyright lawyer until it is far too late.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So, congratulations, guys! You way overspent. I mean, 25,000 euros for a book is a pretty hefty price, and it'd be amazing to have a rare first edition copy of the work, the book of Herbert there, his book. But I don't know what to think about this.
It's ridiculous.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like I don't know
people will try to make a buck off of anything.
Getting an original book from the guy who wrote the Lord of the Ring. What's his name again?
Tolkien.
Tolkien. Right, very, very old copy of Tolkien, and somehow you think that you own the rights to Lord of the Ring.
Yeah.
Because you have a very old book.
I have a first edition, never cracked, and I'm gonna make it digital and then burn it.
Somebody's I need to get some of the residential.
I can imagine what some of my comic book friends would say if somebody said, "Oh, I'm going to burn my first edition of Spider-Man or the first time Batman appeared." Oh my god!
You get the very first copy of Spider-Man, and you think all of a sudden you're Stan Lee.
I own the rights to Spider-Man. Now Sony owes me a lot of money for that last movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel sorry for them. I always admire, fans going out of their way to actually make things happen in their world, and that's great. But this is like, dude. Anyway,
too funny.
We don't have a top 10 today, but we do have Benjamin that's here, and he's here to Make us go.
Hmm.
It's something anyway.
Okay, there's
I
like
bet
a thing.
we have
So stuff and things have happened.
Yes,
That's
Stuff and
it.
things.
That's it. That's all my no. Okay. So late Saturday, a truck collided and there was an accident. This truck was carrying 100 animals. It was 100 monkeys.
Oh,
Poor
So like
guys.
a truck carrying several monkeys escaped from the collision. So the Pennsylvania State Police had to track them all down on Saturday.
Oh
Wow.
God! You gotta chase down monkeys all over the place.
Oh my god.
Right.
Everybody keep your dogs inside.
were they big monkeys or little monkeys?
They were, I don't know what kind of monkeys they are. Cynomolgus, Mackay. I don't know how to pronounce
Oh,
it.
okay. They're not very.
They were doing my
They're
cat.
small.
So little monkeys. Unfortunately, 3 of them did die due to injuries. They had to be euthanized.
No.
But imagine like being the Pennsylvania State Police and getting this call. Like, we've got some escaped animals. Well, what kind of animal? It's a monkey. It's a freaking monkey. You got to find a freaking monkey. Like
It's like
in
a squirrel with
Pennsylvania.
long arms and long legs. I actually don't know.
Right. Like, how many
no
monkeys exist in Pennsylvania?
Right.
Now the funny thing is, I'm sure the Pennsylvania police was we don't know what to do. We can't shoot them. So what do we do now?
Yeah.
The only response is to shoot people. So
Right.
That's not Pennsylvania cops. That's just U.S. cops.
Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah.
They don't have their butterfly net for the for getting the monkey.
I mean, but there's more to the story. So essentially, the shipment of the monkeys were en route to a CDC-approved quarantine facility.
Oh, I can see it happening.
Right. So like, diseased monkeys escaping into Pennsylvania and not getting caught. They did catch them all, so we don't have to worry about that. But
Wait,
still,
I think I saw this movie.
I don't know. It's not clear.
Well,
Okay.
come on.
So they were.
QAnon
The
forums.
location of the quarantine facility and the type of research for the monkeys were apparently not clear.
Okay.
So generally, these kind of monkeys are generally used in medical studies, right? So that's one thing we do know. But
Yeah,
beyond
we
that, we know they were going to a quarantine facility
Yeah.
for the CDC.
Yeah.
Mhm.
$100.
Oh,
It says
no.
right now there's a forum on QAnon that says these monkeys have the next variant of COVID.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the movie Outbreak was actually
Yes.
a prophecy.
Alex Jones is going to be all over this shit.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
watch
and now this
it.
is national news because before it was just a shipment by the CDC. No one would really know. But now, since there was a wreck, some of them escaped. Who knows what they spread? I mean, they probably the strong likelihood is they didn't have anything. They were just there for medical testing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Do
can see
they-
that.
Do they know the age of the monkeys? Because I know there's a lot of monkeys where the older they get really mean. And now in Pennsylvania, that may be, not as much of a thing, but
Apparently, the
Yeah, I don't know.
Pennsylvania troopers tweeted, anyone who sees or locates the monkey is asked not to approach, attempt to catch, or come in contact with the monkey. Please call 911 immediately.
Good luck trying to catch a macaque. Good
I
Lord.
know.
They're like, don't approach because that fucking monkey's sick with something they don't want the human to get.
Right.
Yeah,
or
so,
the monkey's going to eat your face off because monkeys have done that.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
I
and
was
it's
gonna
not really about what it has because he said due to it not being a domesticated animal and them being in an unknown territory, it's hard to say how they would react to a human approaching them, which
Yeah.
is true for any wild animal.
Yeah,
Very
I mean, like, I was in my sister lived in Barbados for a bit, and they have monkeys there that are just like squirrels. It's like squirrels, like here in Florida anyway. And they're just all over the place, but they stay the hell away from you. If you get anywhere near them, they're off. They're up in the tree and
Yeah.
gone. But that's how it was in Barbados. It was really cool actually to see them fucking around up there in the trees and stuff. It's great.
So I like this part. Crates littered the road as troopers searched for monkeys, rifles in hand. The Valley Township firefighters used thermal imaging to try to locate the animals, and a helicopter also assisted.
Wow.
Oh, that's-
So this is
I mean,
like
the
a whole
last thing that
recon.
makes sense.
Hover over them with a helicopter. That's bound to make them calm.
Of course.
Right.
Well, they may not know. I mean, helicopters can go kind of high up so that you don't really hear them, right? Or can they?
No, not
Yeah.
really. That's
Yeah.
gonna-
Sorry, I'm
I
still
mean,
kind of
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Would they? I don't know that would really bother them though. They won't necessarily.
Oh
know
come on!
what
You
it
got
is.
this hovering big thing over your head that
But
goes.
it's not going to be like hovering this low. It's gonna
No,
be,
but still.
They'll be super high up.
It's not going to bother them anything more than what's already happening, which is they're in this environment. They have no fucking clue what's going on.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's
I'm
no more or
concerned-
less than the cars passing, the music, the all the everything that's going on.
Right?
It's just another thing.
And if
yeah,
they're CDC monkeys, is it fair to assume that they've been bred in captivity and maybe possibly have never even seen outside?
It's possible.
Who knows?
this is possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so-
a witness said that she was following the truck when the accident happened. So they stopped to help out. And the other driver said they thought they saw a cat run across the road. So she said she looked in the crate and said, "Nope, they're monkeys."
It's like, oh yeah, all of a sudden we're in that movie Jumanji, and all the fucking monkeys are
right.
driving the
Right.
car.
I'm just trying to see this from her perspective. So imagine you're driving down the road. There's a truck in front of you. It gets into an accident. All these crates fall out everywhere. You get out to help, and you're like, someone's like, I saw like a cat run across the road, and you're like, really, what's in these crates? And you look in and you see fucking monkeys. And you're like, no, they're monkeys. What the hell is going on?
That would be freaky, man. Scare the shit out of me. That's for
Imagine
sure.
like going home and telling someone you know this story. So, I found some monkeys today.
Right? Yeah, that's the highlight of the week.
There was a monkey crash this afternoon.
Your conspiracy theorist uncle was, yeah, they didn't recover all the monkeys. There are a couple of monkeys out there for sure. They're poisoning people.
Yeah, this is all on purpose. They purposefully crashed the car so they could release the virus on the public, whatever. They're gonna make it some controlled thing.
That
by
monkey
powers
was
of be-
especially by Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
I figured we had to cover this because I really did anticipate that we are going to hear about this again.
Oh yeah,
We
for
are.
sure. I think you're absolutely right. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you so much for that. My dear Hertzie, you got a Schadenfreude for us?
A Schadenfreude?
Sure.
I not only have one Schadenfreude, I don't have even two Schadenfreudes. I have three Schadenfreudes, and one of them will be a callback to last week.
Oh, wow. All right.
We're in
Things
trouble
are
here.
looking up.
For our first Schadenfreude, we have Eric Trump, who
Sorry.
during
the
that's fine.
right?
During the examinations that have been going on regarding not Trump University, the Trump Organization. So this is the District Attorney of New York who has been investigating this. He has had to plead the fifth 500 times.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So he should get a card, actually, that says I plead the
Yes.
fifth to save himself so he can just lift it up every time.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. In fact,
It's like a little panel.
according to
Panel
the
like
Ross,
at the auction.
the Ross story article, anything that did not involve basic information, he was pleading the fifth.
Wow.
What else is there to talk about then?
It's like,
Yeah,
what's your
right.
name? My name's Eric Trump.
I plead
Like,
the fifth.
what did your dad do on this date? I plead the fifth.
Actually, I don't even like that I said I'm Eric Trump. Can we make that the fifth thing too? Let's just go with that. Yeah.
Mark that out.
All right, our second story involves Daddy Trump.
Oh,
Ooh.
God, I hope they catch him. They put him down.
Oh, so do I, and this is going to help because in an 8-1 ruling, the Supreme Court rules that the former president could not invoke executive privilege on White House records if the current president did not assert that privilege as well. So
Finally.
Biden
Now,
has already stated open the floodgates on all that, and they are now open. Nobody else can say no.
Yay.
Wow. That's
There
great.
is
Oh,
there's-
yeah.
There's something that really bothers me about the whole, well, many things that bother me about the whole Trump presidency. But it's just how they say things like, oh, well, you can do this because it didn't say in the book you can't do this. It's so they just play by the seam of their pants. Some memo out there says you can't take the president to court. Why? Well, because the book doesn't say you can, or
The book's
it's like,
It's like an opinion or something,
Aside-
right? Like,
Okay, so my biggest thing though with this though is how people are like, Trump is great. He's a real straight shooter. He just tells you like it is. You're like, okay, release your records, release your tax records,
I'd plead the
release
fifth.
these records, release
I'd
this
plead the
record.
fifth.
Oh no, I shouldn't have to do that. You're like,
That's- yeah.
these two things don't exist together. Sorry.
It's
No,
a bit like
true.
that the Disney movie Air Bud. You know, where they have
Yeah.
a dog to play on the basketball team, and they said, well, the reason that we play a dog on the basketball team is because the book doesn't say you can't have a dog on the basketball team. This is ridiculous. But the entire presidency of Trump is exactly just that. Just playing by these stupid little rules that, boy, it doesn't say it can't kill people.
Yeah.
Right.
At least Airbud had a dog, though. You know, so it's
Mhm.
already
Right?
better.
Cute dog too.
Yes.
All right, circling back to last week,
Sorry.
Nick Joseph Fuentes
Ugh.
and Patrick Casey have both been subpoenaed, or have been subpoenaed by the Select Committee about the January 6th
Oh.
Damn.
insurrection, if I may.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Nick Fuentes and Patrick Casey are leaders of America First, or Groper, or
Hope.
Groper.
Groper.
Groper. I like that. That's it
Groper sounds about
follows, you know?
right.
Yeah, it tracks.
The Select Committee is seeking facts about the planning, coordination, and funding of these events, which also, lo and behold, includes tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin from a French computer programmer.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm stepping on your toes a bit here, Benjamin.
you're fine.
So we will be, at least I'm going to be looking at this every so often just to see what happens. If they decide to follow in the steps of everybody else, I am sure this is going to go up some places, but it's probably not going to end well.
I hope not.
Oops.
Hope not. These
I'm
motherfuckers are
just glad.
slippery.
I'm just glad, and I'm hoping it's not going to be one of those things, because when it comes to taking down powerful people, the U.S. has a history of not doing that.
That's true.
It definitely does. Though, as one person's on, I think those the Daily Beans or Mueller, she wrote, one of the two with Alice and Gill, stated where about that, and this was a few weeks ago, but about that time we were at the same place we were with the Watergate investigation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is
Oh, good.
being processed. It's just one of those, there's a lot of information to go through. And I believe Merrick Garland on the anniversary did put in some remarks saying that, yes, this is actually being worked on and investigated. There's a lot of information we can't get because it's an ongoing investigation, and we don't want to scare all these people off to their French Bitcoin programmer daddy.
Yeah.
Right.
But unlike Trump, Nixon was actually smart enough to quit before.
Yeah.
Time before, he was actually smart enough to say, "Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you."
Right,
And
but Trump couldn't though, because
You can't quit now. Yeah.
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 Well,
Right.
also,
Quit.
I
He's
don't
still
think
the next
Nixon.
president.
That's true.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nixon wasn't going for a dictatorship.
Yes. Exactly. He was clear about that. Like, why don't people realize that? He was obviously saying, I'm just going to keep being president over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Even though you can't be.
No, it's like when he was running, I remember being like, "Hey, y'all, this is some of the same stuff the Nazis did to get Hitler elected." And I have people going, "Oh no, you don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this
In
is
Russia,
exactly what I was
too.
thinking a few minutes ago. It's kind of rhetoric, well, the president can only be president for 2 terms. Yes, but it doesn't say Donald Trump can't be president for 5 terms. This is the kind of stupid thing we play with
they'll
all the
twist it.
time.
Right?
Yeah.
People just let it happen. I don't understand. I really
Well,
don't.
yeah. Hey, Kevin, it says they can't be president more than 2 times, but if we change the name of the title, then
Yeah,
he
that's
can
right.
do it more. So instead of president, he's going to be presidente. No, that's 2.
That's right. That's right.
King. Let's just go with King. Yeah.
Ultimate dictator.
Yeah.
There
Supreme ruler.
we
There
go.
you go. That's it. Right there.
He's like, I was president for 2 terms, then supreme ruler for 6.
That's right. And you know what? His followers would go for that.
He would definitely try. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
His followers would actually go for that.
Yeah.
Oh God, I sure hope they actually managed it. If there's one person you need to nail, I mean, you guys dropped the ball on George W. Bush. If there's one person that needs to be nailed, it's that guy.
Yes.
Oh, anyway. My dear Bradley, you got another brilliant moment for us?
I do.
Brought to you by religion.
That's right. Brought to you by religion. So this is this dude is named Manuel Johnson. You might remember him. He's the one that said, it was a while ago, it was, in March of 2021. He said that he's Michael Jackson's heavenly lawyer, and he dances for the Lord now.
Oh,
in heaven.
okay. That's good.
Yeah, so you might remember that. He's back.
This is the part where you need to do your God voices. I like this Michael Jackson kid. Bring him up here and do a pirate performance.
All right, so real quick.
I mean, Michael Jackson pleaded the fifth on everything, so I think that that's pretty good. He's good.
I do have to preface this for anyone listening. The audio is kind of bad, but it's the video's fault, not ours.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's like a weird background noise, but it's this dude's fault. It's coming from his audio.
Yeah.
All right.
We promise. We suck, but not that bad.
So I guess he started out as like he had a culinary, he was a cook and stuff. Like he had a culinary degree, went through that, and then finally realized that you don't make as much money as you do if you're grifting.
Right.
And so yeah, he got his so they say, in spite of his degrees and established careers in the culinary and real estate fields, so I mean he already had money, he answered the call to preach. He was licensed, trained, and ordained to ministry by True Vine Miracle Temple, Spirit and Truth Communication Network, and Bridge of Deliverance International.
Wow, that is a huge mouthful.
And then
Try
he
to
put on
recreate it.
armor of God with the shield of life and the sword of truth.
Right. At first, I thought it was all one place because I was like, "Holy shit, this just keeps going!" But apparently, it's 3 different places. They just didn't.
Oh, okay.
I know,
so
but
that's how much money he had ahead of time. Is that he went to school at 3 different places? He's like, this place is good, but also I want to go here. And now I'm done with this, so I'm gonna go here.
He was just looking for this.
3 different fields.
What's that?
He was just looking for the school that made him do the least amount of homework.
Right? Yeah. It's not like it matters, It's not like you need the information from one school to go to the next one. It's all bullshit,
Do you guys think they actually go to school? They actually have like real homework? I mean,
yeah.
It seems to me they would have, the only thing they would have to do is make a speech. But do we actually have to do like real research, real historical research, or you have to just find a quote and do a speech about it?
Yeah.
I recall Catholic seminary stuff actually has like real homework and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Bible homework.
Yeah, memorizing the Bible, right?
Yeah, memorizing the Bible and then like what goes where and what is supposed to mean what.
And how to lie about all the things that
you got a thesis and all that.
So
right?
the rest of you, the rest of you didn't go at 5 o'clock in the morning every day before high school to learn about the scriptures?
No.
Even when I went to Catholic school, no.
That's that's what the Mormons do every day.
Oh.
So
like Monday through Friday, you go into a class in the church and you learn about the Bible and the Book of Mormon and all the other stuff.
Oh, God.
Oh wow.
That sounds awful. Anyway,
but we do have a clip. I'm going to tell you right now, I have no fucking idea what he's saying. But in conclusion,
he's saying words.
Trump's president still, but it doesn't.
Really? They're
nothing.
Still doing this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We got 2 more years of this, don't we?
Maybe speaking of
2.5.
Mm-hmm. No, we have years until Trump dies. That's what, and even then.
No, then he's going to come back because JFK can come back.
Well, they already think that JFK is going to be coming back, and that man would be like over 100.
But didn't you see that they thought that he's already come back and that Trump was just like they disguised him as Trump, and they were like comparing the features of Trump now to the features of JFK and how it's already JFK? Am I the only one who saw
God.
this?
What?
Wow, I actually missed that.
I mean,
but yeah.
I'll
Oh
have to
my God.
Sounds about Yeah, I mean it tracks for how they
Yeah.
think there.
Yeah.
This is why if an alien species picks this up, like all
We're
radio
fucked.
waves, we're done.
Well,
This
actually,
is too
they're
much.
gonna-
This is an easy target.
Like you said, they're just gonna go. We don't want to go there. Let's keep them around because they're great for drama, like the TLC channel. You know,
Right?
how you watch all that for the shit shows that show on there
Great.
that make you feel better about yourself.
Earth
Is that what you're telling me? We're the
Yeah.
TLC channel of the universe?
We are absolutely.
Damn
Don't
it.
surprise me.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's watch that clip.
Anyway, who's
So,
gonna cue this
let's-
clip up here?
Let's hear his gobbledygook.
Yes, let's do that.
Another brilliant moment brought to you by religion.
Yeah.
Congress certifies a president.
Okay, yes.
Yep,
He's
I
right.
agree.
true. Pause for
If the
instance.
certification is not certified,
What?
they can't do it.
The certification needs to be certified too.
45 was supposed to be certified because of the voting frauds. And it got pushed back and pushed back
Nope.
You get
That
put
didn't
You know,
happen.
until 46 came in. And by that time, it was too late. So I have to
Huh?
explain this to you.
Yes, you do have to explain.
I mean, you're not.
45 was never
No.
impeached.
What?
Yes,
For
he
him
was.
to be impeached,
3
he could
times.
not re-enter as a president if he
What?
was impeached. He
No.
never got impeached. Matter of fact, I prophesied that he would not get impeached.
Oh, God.
He didn't get
Even though
removed.
he tried a few times. That means he is still president.
No, actually, that does not.
What?
So you know what? No, he needs to look up the word non sequitur.
Those are
Because
crazy mental gymnastics.
Okay. To clarify,
Okay, certify the first certification with the certification of a certification.
I just have one question. Can I have what he's having?
Yeah.
Because they look so... he's hiring a
Let's-
kite.
yeah. let's just Donald Trump was impeached twice. Once you impeach, you also kind of try it in the Senate.
Mhm.
If the Senate had found him quote unquote kind of guilty, then he would not be able to run again as president.
Right.
But since the Senate was essentially run by Republicans, they said no, he's fine.
No, he's okay. Yeah.
But he's still impeached, right?
Yeah.
He still is impeached,
Mhm.
and he was just allowed to keep on having a career in politics.
yeah, it's
That's
the
the
process.
reality. Of course, this guy at the time, like all the other fraudulent preachers they have out there, basically said, no, Donald Trump's not going to be impeached because God said so. Of course,
Right.
history happened. He was impeached. So he has to go with another version of the big lie and basically say, no, he was not impeached because otherwise he'd have to admit his preaching is just bullshit. And he
Did-
can't do that.
Oh, go ahead, Hertzy.
Did anyone else get the idea that the hostess was trying to do SOS with her eyes during that first part?
Okay.
I was looking at her and she,
Actually, I was going to comment on this because she was mostly fine until he said, I'm going to have to explain this to you. And she fucking hard blinked. She's like, boom, boom, like, fuck you, dude.
Start your mansplaining.
It's like I'm talking to a woman. So first of all, the word impeach means that
Oh.
It's not about fruit, okay, lady? It's not about fruit. It's about
Well, the funny
removing
thing
from
is-
office.
they're talking about the the electorates have to be certified, right? And what's so hilarious is that we've had reports come in just fairly recently with this January 6th investigation that there was like five different states made up fake documents to
Yes.
claim that they were the electorates, and then went and tried to turn them in. And you can see that they were all like basically copied and pasted from one another. They all basically looked the same, except there was one that stood out as being different. But yeah, they were literally trying to just like show up and hope that they could trick the people. It was just like, wow, that's crazy, man.
It's not even a good coup. It's a lazy coup. It's not even done right. It's like it's a political coup, but it's not even done properly. It's like put some
It's more like a
some
coop.
heart into it. or something.
Try.
Try.
I would like to say that it was a cuckoo coup.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
What was the channel this thing was on? Did everybody knows?
Fox.
Was it?
Oh.
No, it wasn't Fox.
What?
No, it's
Was it-
some crazy YouTube
was it-
channel like ours.
It's just
I'm
a
sure.
YouTube channel or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, what,
Video.
it's on. Yeah, it's almost. It's not. It wasn't
Oh,
the
yeah,
Steve
no,
Schultz
okay.
one, but it was one like that. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
some unknown internet show that we're giving fame to.
You think these
Yeah.
guys are starting to run out of credible pastors at some point?
No.
Maybe they'll start getting a lot of these pastors. Like for example, if you go to places like in Africa, there's a lot of these crazy pastors. Like, there's like one of them that farts on his constituents, basically saying he's farting the Holy Spirit onto them. And
Don't
stuff.
kink shame.
No, I mean, but how long do you see some of these guys popping up and say, "No, Donald Trump is the president for sure"?
But you
Right. I mean, I feel like we're just as crazy here, just in a different way. You know.
absolutely.
Easily. You seen Robin Bullock? I mean, come on.
Circumcised tides. Can't forget about those ones.
Cat Kerr is still the best one, I think.
Oh, I love
Oh,
her.
yeah,
I haven't
good
seen her in a
point,
while.
yeah.
We need to find some crazy cat videos.
Yeah, she's been hiding out or something.
Yeah, it must be on vacation. Maybe those wings. Maybe she finally moved a little to the left and flew away.
She's been in vacation in heaven. That's where she goes. She's got the timeshare
The
in
pet
heaven.
portal. She went through the pet portal.
No, she's setting up her
I
big
mean-
expensive house
Volcanoes.
right now.
If there was a portal where I just got to hang out with cats and dogs all day and that was my life, I would be there in 2 seconds.
I was going to say, you are the target audience for that video. That whole.
The reason we haven't heard about Cat Kerr, she's surfing that underwater volcano
That's
right now.
exactly it. The volcano. Yeah.
Hertzy's like, I'm this close to converting. Okay. Because that'd be awesome if this was true.
Well, she's doing it with her cats and dogs side by side. The dogs and cats are all strapped in with her.
All right.
Anyway.
Thank you so much for that, guys, as per usual. Let's take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll be with Bernard Lamborelle to talk about his latest book. So stay with us.
Oh yeah.
It's where atheists gather. This is LATV 2.0. This is where the atheists gather. This is home. This is LATV 2.0.
I'm Amy with a Y.
And I'm Amy with an I.
And we're the hosts of Secular Soup, where each week we offer up a bowl of real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever else we want to talk about because it's our podcast.
Just listen to what these random dudes are saying about our show.
This is what would happen if Daria and Jane grew up and started a podcast.
So if you like extremely foul-mouthed ladies with opinions, this is the podcast for you.
Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.
Hi, I'm God, and I just want to make sure to tell you not to listen to Unapologetics on Stitcher and SoundCloud. That's Unapologetics with an X at the end. But, yeah, definitely do not listen to this show. I mean, I swear to me, alright, I will murder my son. Well, I mean, I kind of already did that, but just don't listen to the show, okay? Hey, Lucy.
Can you not call me that? Okay? We already went over what my name is, okay? It's Lucifer.
Alright, look, Luce. You wanna come with me? I'm gonna go fuck with this guy, Job.
No, don't do that, okay? Can you just leave him alone?
Yeah, I'm gonna kill his family.
No, don't do that.
I'm gonna give him sores all over his body.
Don't do that. That's disgusting.
And, I'm gonna kill all of his livestock. You know.
Stop saying things. Just stop.
And I'm gonna blame the whole thing on you. Alright, let's go, bud. Remember, don't listen to Unapologetics on Stitcher and SoundCloud.
Hey, definitely listen to that show. It's awesome. It's really cool. He's really a dick.
I heard that.
All right, our next guest, our returning champion author Bernard Lamborelle, to talk here about his new book. He's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. Bernard, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Hey, hello, Kevin. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Welcome back, sir. Welcome back.
Yeah, that's great.
Last time we had you on, you talked about your book, The Covenant. For people that might have missed the show, maybe you'd be so kind to give us a quick bio as to who Bernard Lamborelle is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the most unlikely candidate to have written this piece. And like like somebody said, maybe the only one who could have done it. So it was kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, so I'm Bernard Lamborelle, and I've got an engineering background, and along the long path of this work, ended up signing up for a master in the biblical studies, learned biblical Hebrew, historical criticism, and all that good stuff, and ended up writing a book called The Covenant, in which I argue that the God of Abraham was not a deity, but was an actual king of Mesopotamia, which memory was elevated to the rank of deity. And I would argue that that change of premise, because that's the only thing I'm suggesting, is just a change of premise as opposed to a deity, looking at him as a lord, a king, allows and enable us to kind of project the story where it belongs, which is in the Bronze Age, in the context of the cult of the dead, and actually understand where the dichotomy between maximalist and minimalist, believers, unbelievers in certain ways. Some people will argue, no, it's a historical fact. No, it's not. How we can actually solve that, the two together with a new synthesis. And so the idea is to present that. And the new book is a nonfiction comic, which, because what I realized is with the original book, there's a lot of technical details, a lot of knowledge on history of ancient Israel that is required to kind of understand. And so I kind of lost some people in the actual story. And this is what the new comic is trying to address, is to present it in a real story so that people can actually embrace it, follow it, and really understand how it happened.
So you're essentially saying you dumbed down the book in the second book for
there you go. This is why I'm here. Come on.
I
simplified the argument.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I always
Not
thought
dumbed down. How dare you?
The story of Abraham is a very interesting one, because I think of all the biblical characters, people don't pay a lot of attention to Abraham, but the religious do. You know, all three Abrahamic faith, and they call him Abrahamic faith exactly for that, and they pay great reverence to the man. So I think your premise there of actually the God of Abraham being an actual person, a possible actual person, I think was very, very interesting.
Yeah. Actually, what I'm trying to do in this nonfiction comic is, because it's a beam of evidence and causalities. You know, it's all about painting the context, and I'm using a beam of evidence that includes a literal reading. So it's very important for people to understand that it's just not an interpretation of the text. It is the actual text in Hebrew, or even a translation works actually quite well. And then it's also showing how the story, which most biblical scholars pretend or will say today that, especially Genesis 14, which is kind of the War of the Kings, does not fit the narrative. And when you approach the text from a theological perspective, indeed, you kind of wonder, what is this piece doing there? And yet when you approach it from a secular perspective, you understand that Genesis 14, this War of the King, actually sets the entire, it paints the backdrop for what's happening next, which is the covenant. And so same thing, it also uses chronology, and it uses different aspect. And I'm kind of using different color scheme in the nonfiction comic, so that people understand and realize, okay, the green is related to the context or the narrative, the blue is the actual chronology, etc. And so I'm trying to kind of present it in one schmoosh, how it all ties in together in a very complex and unique way that would be virtually impossible to achieve if there wasn't some substance behind it.
I find it very interesting that you mentioned, the literal writings here, and I think it's one of the things that I think we have a tendency to make maybe as a mistake. We look at it through the eyepiece of looking at the past, But at that time, there was no reason to think that the Hebrews wouldn't be saying these things literally instead of saying some kind of interpretation. Is that really what do you does your work when you talk about literal taking into the context there is how do historians feel about that? Do they use the same approach?
Uh, it's actually interesting because so far historians have been reluctant to look into this work, and it took me a long time to understand why. I've always figured, reasonable people, critical thinkers, if you present evidence, people should be able to evaluate the evidence and say, well, it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, right? But they should at least be able to look into it. And what I'm finding is that anybody who's studied in biblical studies, have all approached these stories from one of two camps. But in both camps, the premise is that Abraham was a religious character and that the story is a religious story. And that, of course, he's making a covenant with a deed. And for atheists, well, that doesn't make any sense. Just just on the surface, it makes no sense, right? So this is not historical. There's no history. Next, move on, And while for the religious people, well, they will argue it's true, but they're looked at. Obviously, they're not interested in trying to evaluate the possibility that their God could have been just a mortal king. So I find that confirmation bias and first impression are my biggest enemies. Everybody comes to the table with an already preset suggestion. Probably you by now are hearing this. If it's the first time you're hearing this, you're thinking, well, where is this guy coming from? And yet the people that are giving me the better response are critical thinkers that do not have a particular background in biblical studies and are still open, are not immediately rejecting the idea before reading the arguments.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're actually taking the time to analyze the argument and figure, okay, this actually makes sense. So I figure it's just a question of time for historians and other people to consider it more seriously.
I hope so. At the same time, I hope not, because when it comes to anything historical and biblical, it takes a long time. I mean, think of Thompson, that basically postulated in the 70s that Moses was fictional, and to this day, people are. I mean, he's been vindicated by now, but to this day, people are still fighting against the idea. So it might be quite a while before your book actually sees vindication. Do you think that sometimes maybe it's because as humans we have a very binary way of thinking? Atheist, it's got to be myth, or it's not. You present your book is essentially presenting option C, a different option altogether.
Exactly. And I think if you were born in a Christian family, the odds of you becoming Muslim or Buddhist or whatever are much smaller than somebody who was born in India or in a Muslim country, right? It happens, but the odds are extremely slim. And I think it's a similar thing with scholars, biblical scholars. They've basically convinced themselves for the last 50 years or so. The liberal scholars have convinced themselves there's absolutely no historical truth to, as you say, Moses, Abraham, and all that. And then they've been looking at some of the fundamentalists who've actually been publishing some very interesting information, but we look at it and we ignore it just because we don't like their premise, right? And I think what my work is kind of doing is kind of allowing everybody to come back to the table, reevaluate the actual arguments, and realize there's actually some things that make sense here, something that makes sense there. And when you look at it this way, you have a naturalistic explanation that fits the historical context, that works in the chronology, and that allows us to explain where the history of Yahweh originates from. Because today scholars still can't tell us where and how it happened. And what my work does is offer an answer to the where, when, why, and how. And and basically it's just a question of looking at it and
it's definitely
open to
definitely worth a look.
I'd like to think so, but
yeah, I'm sure. and what I find amazing that your explanation, although a valid one, is so basic because we do this to this day. I mean, just before the interview and all that, we were talking about QAnon's obsession with Donald Trump and JFK. They're already almost deifying people.
Yeah.
No, if you get QAnon and give it 1,000 years, Donald Trump would be a god in that story for sure.
Oh yeah.
So the idea of that Abraham was actually talking to a real person, and this person became Yahweh, the God, the Lord, and it just snowballed from there, is not that far fetched.
Right.
I mean, look what we did with George Washington. He he can't tell a lie, and he cut down a none of that was real. He's a real person, but they like completely made up shit about him. Same thing with King Arthur, like fighting dragons and shit. It's
if you look at George Washington as a perfect example, because Washington essentially was, until the American Revolution, was pretty much a failed general. He wasn't all that great. He wasn't all that brilliant. But all of a sudden, he's like this master of strategy. It's like, well, what the hell did that happen? The guy was basically lucky. Really.
Okay, well, that's the thing, though. When you talk about that, is what made him good is he decided to no longer follow the rules of engagement. Because essentially, back then, they were scheduling battles, like show up at 8 a.m. and we'll all line up and we'll fight each other. He's like, no, I'm going to cross this fucking river and surprise the hell out of you. That's what happened. If somebody did that today, we would call them terrorists.
Yes, exactly. Actually, it's kind of funny we say that because Bernard and I, being French Canadian, Bernard would actually know as well that how the French lost to the English was exactly that too. If you go some of the history of Canada, how the French lost to the British was because they were vastly outnumbered and they decided to take these farmers essentially and train them as soldiers and face to face against trained British soldiers. Of course they lost. But until then, it was guerrilla warfare, and the French were actually holding on pretty good. And Washington did the same thing, guerrilla warfare essentially. Took you by surprise, no rules, just get in there, kill them. So anyway, that diversion here.
I just have a question, and admittedly, I didn't see your first interview, but like, what do you know about the king or kings? Because it's entirely possible there's like more than one.
Oh, absolutely.
If you look at Hercules, I think it is like there's 5 or 6 people who Hercules is actually came from. So what do we know about the originator or originators of Yahweh?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, obviously we can't know for sure, right? I mean, I've got my own suggestion, and I'm suggesting it in the book. I personally believe it was King Hammurabi, King Hammurabi of Mesopotamia, who lived between, he ruled between 1792 and 1752. BC or 1750 BC, and he was one of the greatest king of Mesopotamia. Now, I did not settle on him because he was a great king, but because his life, his ambition, and the needs of the time made him the perfect candidate. And as I dug into his story, you realize that there are some very specific things in the Bible that allows us to kind of see how his life and the events happening in the story of Abraham actually offer a perfect match, which again, it could all be accident, but it's a sequence of event that is, wow, when you start aligning so many of the evidence, it's harder. But again, for me, that is not the critical point. Whether I'm right or wrong on that, it's a suggestion that I guess it's a good guesstimate. But I think, as Kevin mentioned earlier, we have to look first and foremost at the historical context and what was going on back then. And the cult of the dead is, interestingly, it was the most common practice in ancient Israel and Canaan, and it's very little studied. There are very few people that are studying the cult of the dead in ancient Israel. Why? Because it doesn't relate to Israel, right? It's foreign, right? It's the Canaanite. They're the bad guys, right? So we don't study that, and yet you realize that throughout Israel history, there's two themes in the Bible: the gift of the land and the descendants, right? And the covenant, right? So the covenant between the Lord and his people and the gift of the land. And those are the two themes. And those are two themes that are recurrent in Practice of the Dead. The reason we worship or we celebrate the dead is significantly because they are the markers of the land that belongs to the generations. Okay, and Francesca Stavakospoulou has written a very good book on the land of our fathers, which really discusses that and the significance it had and the influence it had on the Bible. So interestingly, she never, again, challenged that premise of Abraham, and I think if she did, it would be extremely interesting to see her reaction.
Quick question: do you want to borrow my time machine?
Oh, yeah.
Benjamin's got a DeLorean
Yeah.
somewhere. No, it's
Yeah, absolutely.
Hammurabi, I think, is a good candidate. He was also known as the lawmaker, right?
Yes.
But the aspect I kind of have a bump into here is, and I don't know much about Hammurabi. Maybe you can enlighten me here. But was he Yahweh was known as essentially at first a war god? Hammurabi, being the lawmaker or the law bringer, was he also a military general, or was he prone to war?
Yeah, I mean, he conquered most of Mesopotamia. He's the first, he's the sixth Babylonian king, and the first one to really expand the empire of Babylon all the way up to Aleppo. I mean, we don't have evidence that he had an influence over Canaan, right? We don't have those tablets that would prove that he's been there. But again, the only evidence we have about his life come from the tablets found in Mary, not from Babylon, right? So we have nothing from Babylon per se. So everything we know about King Hammurabi comes from one of his vassals. And when you look at the geography of the Fertile Crescent, you realize that the way to trade between Babylon and Egypt was to go through Canaan. Okay, and in the story of Abraham, Genesis 14, which for me is an important aspect, basically tells us that the Sodomites, the people of Sodom, were vassal of a Mesopotamian king. Okay, and they decided to revolt, and those kings came for a punitive campaign. And as they came for a punitive campaign, they took Lot, which is Abraham's nephew, and went away and took all the people and the goods of Sodom and took off with that. And that's when Abraham comes into play and basically chases them with 300 something mercenaries, chases them, defeats them, recoup all the people, brings all the goods back. And it's clear when you read the text, you wonder, okay, so what happened with these Mesopotamian kings? Why aren't they, if they were so powerful, why aren't they retaliating? Well, next chapter, the Lord shows up, makes a covenant with Abraham. And you understand why he makes a covenant, because it's such a distant region. He needs to ensure the trade. He needs to make the trade open so that the goods can actually flow between Mesopotamia and Egypt. And a little later in the story, obviously you have the whole issue about the descendants and so on, and we can talk about that. But in Genesis 19, the Lord hears that the people of Sodom, he hears rumors that they're still not behaving well, right? What does he do? He decides to crush that city. He sets an example out of the city. So why would we have human beings, kings, in Genesis 14 that are trying to put the people of Sodom under vassalitude? And why would a god or a deity destroy them in Genesis 19? It's clear that it's the same intent, the same desire in the whole story. And so that was the initial impetus, that when I made that connection, I'm like, there's something weird happening here, and we need to investigate that. And ever since I started digging into that and using the premise that this Lord could have been immortal, which was in league with those Mesopotamian king, everything lines up. So
the story of Sodom and Gomorrah never did make a lot of sense. It kind of stands out as really weirdly in the Bible. But if you put it into a historical context, where this Lot character essentially just escapes from a city that's being destroyed, that makes a lot more sense than this whole, turn to salt and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a common story, right? Like,
it's a very common
getting
thing.
Struck down by somebody who doesn't like what they're doing. We're escaping. Cool.
Yeah, the
Lot's wife probably got killed in the way there, but it turns into a more dramatic story when you're retelling it. Because especially if you're like a manly man, you don't want to tell anybody that some, random soldier killed your wife and you couldn't fight him off. No, she turned into a pillar of salt because of God. That's what happened. That's totally what happened.
It was her fault, really. I mean, she turned around and looked at it, and
that same manly man, he couldn't just fight some soldiers, so he had to escape and run away because it was Armageddon happening. You can't fight that, so I might as well run. So that makes a lot more sense than this whole Sodom and Gomorrah story to begin with. And
the other aspect. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And for a leader to go on a military campaign, especially to the outer side of his border or territory, he would have to spend a lot of resources maintaining that. So it makes a lot more sense for him to diplomatically have an agreement with the tribes in the area, say, okay, guys, let's not fight each other and let's keep the trade route open. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side, and we'll just trade instead of fighting. That makes a lot more sense than this whole biblical narrative.
And when you look at the actual story, and you look and you try to understand, and again you visualize this Lord as immortal, and you get to the city of Sodom, you realize what's happening is that the Lord sends messengers. In the Bible we read angels, but angels just come from the Greek angelos, and that means a messenger, right? And in Hebrew it's actually malak, and Melech is a king, and malak is a messenger for the king. So it's clear that he's sending some messengers, 2 messengers. And why are they threatened by the mob to be raped? Because they represent the authority that has kept them under servitude for 12 years. These people, this Lord has kept them under servitude for 12 years. And they revolted in chapter 14. And now they see these missionary coming to inquire of the status of the revolt in the city. They want to rape them just to show them, because rape has been used all along history as a way to indulge pain and humiliation on and so when you look at it that way, then you understand what happened.
So there was a lot of bad blood back then, that's for sure.
Yes.
As if it goes with it, because we also always hear about the angels being, these multi-eyed creature whatevers, and it's like, but then in this one time they came in human form, and it's like, well, why couldn't they do it when that guy was doing mushrooms?
Right. Exactly. I mean, in Genesis 18, Abraham sits under the oak tree and 3 men shows up, right? Who are these men? Well, they're Hammurabi and 2 of his key guys.
I'd like to see a sketch where it was Abraham, was the 3 Stooges that showed up.
Okay.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. That whole thing there makes a lot more sense, historically speaking. But the problem is with all this, and maybe I'm assuming this is also the problem that historians might have, is how do you go about improve this? This is the problem, right? You can't, you can say angels, and you, like you said, you're malak, and it makes perfect sense. It makes absolute perfect sense, but it's still short of hard evidence.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've been working on this, call it an investigation or whatever, for the last 2 decades. I was much younger when I started, and and all along, what I've been trying to do is find the one evidence that would make this impossible or unrealistic or whatever, right? And every time I was challenged and I would dig into it, I would, no, this fits perfectly, timing wise and all that. I mean, chronology is another big issue in the Bible. Historians tells us that, oh, you know, I mean, they live very old because those are mythical characters. But again, if you take the attitude that Abraham made a covenant with a Mesopotamian king, in Mesopotamia, they were not using the decimal base like we use today.
That's right.
They were using the sexagesimal base. And some people have thought or looked into maybe these numbers in the Bible are not, you know, decimal base, but nobody looked into them as a failed conversion from sexagesimal.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we know that at the turn of the millennium, the first millennium BC, mathematicians and scribes were not really good at converting from sexagesimal. That was a base that was no longer used. And so when they had to convert it, they would make a very simple mistake. They would basically convert it as if they were fractions. You know, so they would take like 15 divided by 60, as opposed to taking 15 as an integer. Because 15 years, whether you are in sexagesimal or in decimal, is 15 years. But when you take them as fraction, you end up with numbers that are bigger, because you didn't have a zero back then, so you end up with a number that is bigger. So like if you look at all the dates in the Old Testament and you fix them, and the solution is very simple: multiply by 0.6.
Mm-hmm.
And if you multiply by 0.6, all the dates, all the ages, everything except one, which is the death of Abraham, because they claim he died at 175 years. And that number, even if you multiply by 0.6, is still very high.
Mm-hmm.
But other than this one number, every other number starts lining up. It allows us to line up between, you know, one of the challenge in looking at the Exodus, you mentioned the Exodus earlier, is that the dates are going like this. Depending where you go and you start and you end, they're all over the map. But if you multiply them by 0.6, you actually realize that they do this. And they meet at one point, which is the Battle of Kadesh. And anyway, without going into the detail, but I think the Battle of Kadesh is the time when Egypt, which was occupying Canaan, started withdrawing from Canaan. So it's not that the Israelites left Egypt, it's that Egypt withdrew from Canaan. And so that was the liberation of the Israelites.
Ooh.
So, you know, I think from a mythology standpoint, it's easy to see how, you know, how that can make that extra step, you know, I mean, because, you know, a story like this can easily become mythology.
Okay. I did the math for Abraham. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Like, not that it was that hard. I mean, phones,
Quiet
calculators. Yeah. Oh, I'm totally a nerd. And it's one of those, it's like, I mean, it's higher than what we would definitely expect to see from that age, but it's not within the realm of impossibility. People have lived that long. So it's like, even with that, it's like, okay, maybe somebody fudged a number a little bit here because, you know, Abraham was their favorite character. I've done that in fanfic.
Yeah, what is the number?
What's the number you got there?
105.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, it's like, it's not impossible, it's just improbable.
My great grandma lived to a year longer than that. You know,
Really?
106.
I mean,
100, yeah.
Yeah, and similar to a generation, you know, you talk to any anthropologist, and sorry, my French as well. You know, they'll typically use like 20 years as a generation, 20, 25 years as a generation. And in the Bible, it's 40 years. Do the math. 40 years type 0.6. 24.
Yeah.
Sarah gave birth at 90-year-old. 90 times 0.6 is 54. It's still old, you know, and it's still very improbable. But
it's possible.
It's not
It is
impossible.
possible.
And that's part of the story too, isn't it? That she couldn't have a
Exactly.
she was, yeah.
And it makes
Yeah.
you're right. It falls into place so easily that if the Hebrews have just been liberated, because for example in Exodus, you think if they spent all this time in Egypt, but they've never mentioned the pyramids, they never mentioned the Sphinx, they never mentioned the temples, they don't mention nothing. You really think 1 million Hebrews would just leave Egypt all of a sudden? No, that makes no sense. And wander 40 years in the desert when it's a 6-day walk. It makes no sense whatsoever. But
I
to be
heard too.
liberated-
I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
and not leave a shred of evidence.
Yeah,
That you
no,
were
and
there.
I heard it was anti-Egyptian propaganda, but from like back then. I had heard
it could very
the
well
top,
be.
someone saying it was anti-Egypt propaganda. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's. Yeah, well, I mean, the only other thing that I was going to mention is that I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept of divine counsel. You know, in Ugarit and ancient Israel, there was this in really ancient Israel before Yahweh, right? There was this concept of divine counsel, where El was the major god, and then Baal was kind of the sub god, and there was Asherah that was part of this, and they were overseeing the smaller gods. As it turns out, there was 70 smaller gods, and in Deuteronomy 8:32, there's a big discussion among scholars because we have different. This divine council was headed by 70 gods, right? And in Deuteronomy 8:32, scholars have been arguing around that passage, the Song of Moses, because in some textual witness, so in some version of the story, some version of the ancient text, we have the 70 gods. In other texts, we have the 70 sons of Israel. And people have been arguing, well, which one is correct? Was it the 70 sons? Like, is God dividing the earth between the 70 sons of Israel or between the 70 gods? Well, it's the same thing, right? Those sons were perceived as small deities. And my suggestion that you will see in the book is that even the name Yahweh can actually be formed from Baal and Asherah if you remove, because Asherah in Hebrew can be Baal is a male deity, Baal-ah is a feminine. And so Baal and Baal-ah can be Baal and his wife, right? But if you remove Baal, you're left with the god Yah and his consort, but you form the tetragrammaton Yahweh if you remove Baal out of this. Okay? And Asherah writes exactly the same as goddess Sarah. Okay? So when you look at all this, and Yah, I think the name Yah for God comes or may come from the Akkadian expression Beliah. Beliah basically means my lord in Akkadian, which is the language spoken, I'd say that the language that was being used, the Franca, how'd say that, lingua franca at the time, right? The diplomatic correspondence, it would use Akkadian, which was the language spoken in Babylon. So anyway, I mean, all the elements are kind of converging and help resolve a bunch of questions that scholars have had lingering for a long time. It just all lines up, and one change provides answers to all these questions and allows us to kind of find a new story.
Wow! I sure hope you do get the vindication, man. I really do, because I think you're taking this into a very interesting direction, and I think it's totally worth a look. So your new book, To Be Done With Sodom, is essentially the same, almost the same kind of story, just put down in a dumber version for us idiots. And if people want to find your book, where can they get it?
I can get it on Amazon. It's the easiest way, or on Barnes and Nobles or Smashwords. It's available in different places, and I have a blog at earthlycovenant.com. It's the easiest way to get in touch.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Bernard,
yeah.
thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Really appreciate
Sorry,
that.
say that again. Earthlycovenant.com.
Yeah.
Just
.com.
making
Yes.
some notes here.
Yeah, making some notes. We'll put it in.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, because the biggest challenge is to get people to open up, at least listen to the idea. Usually when they listen to the idea and they start exploring, they realize that, so far I've only been getting great feedback. So
Yeah, exactly.
upward and onward.
So the book is To Be Done With Sodom, or The Covenant, if you want the more extended version. Bernard, thank you so much for that, buddy. It's really great to have you on the show. Before I let you go, though, I got to have you say, hi, this is Bernard Lamborelle, and I took a left at the valley.
Hi, this is Bernard Lamborelle, and I took a left at the valley.
Excellent. And that was our friend Bernard Lamborelle. What an interesting topic.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting. And, I know it's not easy to sway historians. And I know he's got some big shoes to, fill when it comes to proving this kind of stuff. But it's a very valid hypothesis, I think, from a layman's point of view.
I agree.
I'd be kind of really curious to bring a couple of historians on to actually maybe not debate that, but discuss that anyway. Because to me, it makes a lot more sense. What he's saying there, I mean, it's a bit too coincidental. Just the idea of, Hammurabi being the lawgiver. And they always talk about law and law giving when they refer to God and Yahweh. It seems a bit too much of a coincidence to just let it pass and dismiss it like that. And all the stuff we went through, Egypt and all that stuff. Anyway, the book is The Covenant, or To Be Done With Sodom, if you want the dumber Kevin version.
A nonfiction comic, so it's not even just a book with words.
Yeah, exactly. It's got pop-up pictures.
It's got
It's not quite-
pictures.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Christian comics I used to read when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be very interesting to watch this happening down the road, and hopefully, he's onto something. And anything that can make us understand more what actually happened during that time, I think, is going to be worth it.
I agree.
So excellent. So perfect. So Bernard Lamborelle, keep an eye on him, and we'll see what's happening in the future. Well, thank you so much to Bernard Lamborelle for being our guest, and thank you to my co-hosts Sabrina, Brentley, Benjamin, and Hertzy, and thank you for listening. You can find us follow us at leftofthevalley.ca. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Left of the Valley, on Twitter at LATV Podcast, on YouTube, youtube.com/Left of the Valley, and somewhere on Instagram as well.
I think it's Left at the Valley as well.
Okay, you can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. And you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Left of the Valley, and you can become a patron and help the show. Wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us, give us a 5-star review. It helps us. It helps others find the show. All right, coming on the pipe. But before that, Brentley, what do we got coming out there with Unapologetics?
Give us a plug.
Yeah, Wednesdays at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a lot of fun. We're just we're hanging out and watching videos and discussing topics. It's a lot of fun.
Talking shit.
Yeah, it's talking shit. And watching the videos. The music videos has got to be my favorite part. So
yes.
Talking to the people on YouTube comment negatively about us.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's great.
Coming up next week, we'll have Randall Richardson talk about Canadian atheists. We'll have John, the Godless Engineer, in February. That'll be interesting.
Hell yeah.
The pain of flat Earth people this year. We'll have Janice Selby talk about Court 2022 coming back. We'll have Ian Harris, funny guy, talking about that. And we're also in talks right now with Seth Andrews and No Illusions as well. So we got plenty of great things coming on the pipe.
We do.
I'm also trying to get Gerald Posner, who wrote A God's Banker. So that's going to be a great one to talk about as well.
Interesting.
Oh.
So I've just confirmed it's Instagram.com/Left at the Valley. It wasn't, but I just changed it.
Okay,
so there
fair
you go.
enough.
And it's Patreon. It's patreon.com/LATV, right?
Yeah. Yes. Don't forget that.
Just making sure.
Yeah, a little different there.
Anything else on me, Dad?
Have a great week as always.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Keep living the journey.
Do it. Get it. Atheist.
All right. Hey.
So yeah, what I was always saying, the Nick Fuentes segment that we did last week, I've clipped it out, and within minutes of it going live, it was getting views. And I mean, it's not a ton of views, but it went from 80 to almost 100 while I was talking about it in the group chat. But anyway, the comments have been less than kind, which is fine. But I don't do well with body shaming or attacking people, like accusing, it was not kind. So I've deleted a few comments and changed it so that they can't be posting without my approval first, because you can attack my ideologies. Don't attack the way I look. Fuck you.
Yeah.
If that's what you got to do, you obviously don't have an argument.
Right, exactly. It's ad hominem. Yeah.
I still like the fact that they called me a body posy cat lady, and I'm looking going, where's the insult?
Where's the insult? Exactly. I was the exact same thing. But calling Kevin fat, no, that's not fat. That's muscles.
And as I've stated before, I'm the only fat one here. Y'all are skinny bitches. That includes you, Benjamin.
I love you for that.
Y'all are skinny bitches. Comparison.
Yeah.
I sit on your faces and you will all suffocate.
I'm not skinny, but I really don't give two shits. Like, if you don't like the way I look, turn the camera away. Like,
And there's no standard of, like, we try to act like there's some kind of like standard weight, for everybody, but that's just not the way anything works. You can be perfectly healthy.
I would love to see these same people that body shame us. And show us a picture of you there for a second.
Yeah, let's see. Get a shot of your tummy.
Yeah, you want
I'm not afraid to make a comparison. You want to make a comparison? Let's make a real comparison.
Right? Just roll up your sleeve, Kev, and be like, let's do a comparison. Come on, let's do that.
And
anybody want to see an eclipse?
And by the way, Brentley, you're presumably homosexual. I did delete the comment before you had a chance to see it. So, you might want to tell your wife that apparently you're gay.
Oh, well.
Damn it.
And that would be
that'd be a hell of a surprise to Nikki.
Except I think Nikki would be a little surprised to know that you only like it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that would be surprised. She knows I'm paying, but I'm not,
It's not like it's a secret. Anyway.
I guess we have new personas now, so I'm the fat one.
Yeah. What am I, a not funny feminist?
You're the non-funny feminist.
Yeah, I'm the not funny
Benjamin's
feminist.
the unkept one.
Apparently, yeah.
That's great.
Unkempt aging hipster.
Unkept aging hipster.
Yeah, so he made sure to dress extra hipster today for us. I'm so proud of him.
We should almost release that cut right there as a video.
I very well might put this out as a blooper just to let them know that we really don't give two shits. We don't.
Yeah, no.
If you have a real argument, come at us.
YouTube videos is where the lowest of the low go.
Really, and it's just a bunch of bigots replying.
Also, though, there was one guy who was talking about how we're just angry and resentful because of our leftist views. I don't even know what he was talking about. It was like complete absurdity. He's like, you're just angry at the world and looking for a place to fit in. He's like, I was like that. Please just, really give the thing a chance. You're like, what are you talking about, bro?
Give what a chance.
Have you listened to me? I'm not coming from a place of anger. I'm not. You don't hear anger coming out of me. Like, what's happening?
I used to be a Satanist. I used to have wads of money and do drugs all the time, and now I saw Jesus. And they do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.